Well, one of the things that's really interesting, when you do a service, after you finish a part of a service or an entire service, you go to what's called qualification, or I forget the exact name of it, but it's when you sit down and you attest that you got from the service what you were supposed to get. And then you would write up a success story or a testimonial about what you got out of that service. And I realized this pretty quickly. The first time that I wrote down that, you know, this isn't really what I thought it would be, it's not really good, I didn't get anything out of this, what they did with you was they would send you to what's called ethics. And you would sit in this office at Flag for an hour sometimes, a half hour sometimes, 2 hours sometimes, until you spoke to an ethics officer. And you had to speak to an ethics officer to explain to the ethics officers how is it possible that you did not get anything out of this particular service that you just did. And you realize that, excuse me, when you're there, you have a certain amount of time. It's compressed, especially if you're running a business. You're like, in my case, I was in practice. So you realize that you have to get the heck out of there, like within a 3 or a 4 day period, or a 6 day or a 7 day period, whatever you've planned. Never works that way. You know, they say, okay, we'll get you done in 3 days. 6 days later, you're still not done. So what you learn is, after you do this service, and they ask you to write a testimonial, or you might as well just write the testimonial. Otherwise, you're getting sent right to ethics to find out why it didn't go right for you. And they'll question and interrogate you about, so how come everybody else, you know, why didn't this go right for you? How come everybody, you know, this is what you're supposed to get. Why aren't you getting this? It's kind of like they make you feel like you're the one to blame. You're wrong for not getting out of this service what you're supposed to get out of this service. Whether it's increased wealth or in your mind, or happiness, or you feel like you have a new life. Yeah, new life. I mean, when they talk about these new life rundowns, or these different rundowns, they have great PR, great marketing, great promo, but the service was not what it's pretended to be.
So what actually happened in your life after you did all these services, these high-priced consulting services and things, and the auditing and the training? What actually came about as compared to what was going on before you got into the Church of Scientology?
What came about is we drained our bank account to zero. I mean, we had $150,000 in the bank at that point in time. I mean, just sitting there and accumulating interest, and we're putting $5,000 away per month. And then not only did we drain every penny from our bank account, every penny, but we also were unable to put that $5,000 plus per month into our bank account anymore. And that was going in like clockwork. And then things just went downhill. We just started going downhill and downhill and downhill. We tried to find other ways of making money. We went into some other things to make money. We tried to do more practices with some other partners and stuff like that. But everything just went down the drain. It was a terrible experience from the time we did our L rundowns. And this is something that doctors should be aware of. That's a very high-priced ticket in Scientology. And what they want to do is they want to get doctors, because they know doctors have money. Well, at least they know doctors can get a hold of money because of their credit line. And therefore, they can pay for these high-priced services. I'm talking $50,000 for 3 Ls. Now they're probably more than that. We're going back a few years. So they know doctors can do it. So they prey upon doctors. They prey upon big businessmen to get ahead and do this. And they do this through the WISE organization that I mentioned earlier. And they do this through a lot of consulting groups, like chiropractic consulting groups or dental consulting groups. There's a group called Sterling. And then those people will introduce the L's, these L rundowns that are very expensive that Scientology offers, to tell the doctor, hey, this will improve your life. You're going to have a new life. You're never going to be introverted ever again. You'll be able to communicate to anybody on any subject forever. Don't worry about anything. You'll be able to fly out of your body. I mean, all kinds of weird stuff. And stuff that you would believe, not just crazy stuff, but stuff that made sense, like communication and you know, not being introverted and things like that. And then you would go ahead and do this service, pay $50,000, and go, what am I, an idiot? Am I stupid? I mean, I just did this thing. I sat in front of somebody for 3 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours at different intervals, you know, 1 hour here, 2 hours here, an hour here. And I just paid $50,000 for this? Am I crazy? You know, you start evaluating yourself, trying to say, why did I just do that? And it was just a terrible time in my life. I mean, I just remember that, and I'm going back to that experience, and I'm going, what the heck was wrong with me? I mean, why would I pay that kind of money? And then I realized that it was a very sophisticated registration or enrollment procedure that got me to pay the money, and it was that I wanted. I wanted to be better. I didn't want to be introverted. I wanted to be able to communicate on all levels. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to be happier. So all these things culminated in going, okay, well, here's how you do it. Just do these 3 L's and you'll be Superman or whatever.
And I remember when Peter came home after doing the L's, it was weird because the communication was off. It was like he was 2 different people, because on the one hand, he knew inside that he really hadn't gotten what he expected from the L's, but on the other hand, he was trying to put forth this facade, you know, that he did. It was like, what's wrong with me?
We just paid all that money too.
You know, it's like paying all this money. I should have gotten something out of it. So it was like he was trying to convince himself
Exactly what it was.
that he really did. And quite honestly, when you ask, you know, how it affected our lives, $150,000 in savings. We're talking about college education for our kids. It got to the point, you know, where we started other businesses that all just, and one business was with somebody, and we did it because they were Scientologists, thinking that this is an ethical thing, and we totally got taken there as well.
That was Trimlines. It was a diet center
to the
program.
tune of $50,000. Again, the whole premise of you start this thing and it's a whole system, and this is what you get with it. You didn't get it. No one was ever available when you needed help, when you had questions. But the bottom line is, what it finally came to was a situation sitting in an attorney's office talking about filing bankruptcy. And that was definitely for me. Now, I was raised in a home where my dad worked 3 and 4 jobs. He worked hard. The work ethic was great. You always paid your bills. I am sitting in an office talking to a stranger about the possibility of having to file bankruptcy because after working so hard for so many years, all of a sudden we did not have the money to pay our debts and did not know where we were going to go, because it was like each month we were getting deeper and deeper and deeper in debt. We weren't getting out of debt. And that probably was the most embarrassing situation for me. I mean, I just wanted to cry. I wanted to crawl into a hole, and I never wanted to come out again. And that was rock bottom for me.
I would say for me too.